Battle of the Challenges podcast with Vincent Cloud.
David Lauer.
So, episode 8 review of Battle of the Exes 2. Sarah is complaining about Jordan's crankiness as of late. She's still really butthurt about the hill when she was thrown up, and he's like, Sarah, come on, I know you're better than this. That really struck a chord with her, apparently.
Yeah, she was overall sick and tired of his douchebagness. Constantly.
So she decides to write him a letter. He reads it, and he's like, oh, well, Sarah says that it wasn't from a place of malice that I was complaining about your attitude or whatever. I don't know. Either way, they have this cutesy little makeup thing where she tries to move and he goes in her way and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's very romantic comedy type of thing. And they hug it out. They're all good. Before this, Teresa has this great line I felt very poignant because Sarah's crying while she's writing the letter, saying how she wants to become the Wonder Twins again with Jordan, which I find is kind of a hilarious little nickname for themselves. Teresa's like, oh, you love him as a friend. We were supposed to be friends with these people, not lovers.
Exes can get back together, but in this scenario, when you're doing a competition, the ex that you were with, they just become a hindrance to you in some of the challenges. So there's no way you can really get along with them unless you're just absolutely dominating. But in the challenge, there's too much competition for anyone to like solely dominate all the time, unless your name is Wes.
Yeah. Wes and Teresa, they probably have the best relationship in the house, probably because they are winning. You know, had they been facing a lot of domes or whatever, I'm pretty sure the relationship wouldn't be that strong. But you know, Wes is slowly bringing Teresa around.
Back to Sarah and Jordan.
One hand, Jordan. Yeah.
One hand? Why did you have to bring that up?
Because
completely irrelevant to the conversation.
Yes, but you seem to, like when we were watching it earlier, like, oh yeah, he doesn't have a hand because I mentioned it to you. If I didn't mention it to you. Oh yeah,
when he had the sledgehammer, you're like, oh, this is gonna be tough for him. And I was like, oh, why? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Well, because in the other challenge he was doing, you know, when they're jumping from semi to semi. I mean,
yeah, he has one of the most powerful palms and thumbs. He's like an iguanodon. Like, you see him all the time just holding something like it's nothing. I think when he hugged Sarah, he had like a tennis ball in his hand for no reason.
Well, he's got the power of 5 fingers in one thumb.
I have more talent in my one thumb than you do in your whole hand.
Getting back on track, though, like with Jordan and Sarah, I thought it was basically her writing that note to try and get them back together and get them getting along again.
Yeah.
I don't feel like she necessarily needed to apologize for anything. She was mad at him, and rightfully so.
Yeah, she didn't have to apologize.
She didn't have to, no. But it was the only way she could get him to fucking come to and be like, okay, yeah, let's work it out.
Perhaps we should get to the challenge of the day, which was called speed dating. You have 2 semi-trucks going down a strip of road. On one truck, where you start off, is a black wall with a little hole. TJ makes it clear. It's like the woman has to stay on the inside. Jay and Jenna are now in charge of the order. And to me, they made a sound decision to put Leroy and Nia first because the reasoning was they already hate us anyways. Mm-hmm. Why make a new enemy? The trucks are going 30 miles an hour. You got to jump from one truck to the other. You have to wait till your partner is at the wall before you leap onto the other truck to go on your turn. So Leroy and Nia, they go first. It kind of sucks because Nia is nervous. She's like at the edge of the truck. She's like, you know, she's really scared. And Leroy's like, oh, go. Because remember, there's 2 smokestacks along the road. So as soon as they get to that thing, the trucks have to part ways.
Elaborately part ways, like 20 feet.
It was very action movie. They do as best as they can. They end up getting 10 balls. And it looked cool. They look cool doing it. Next is Zach and John A. Not much to say about this, except the usual. Zach is yelling at John A.
She jumped off the back of the truck or fell off.
The wire pulls her back, and the other truck keeps going, so she's dangling there, and Zach's freaking out as usual. Like, you fucked us up. You DQ'd us. Like, he doesn't know. He just assumes. He's always so quick to try and get on her case. And the producer's like, no, you're fine, but nothing's wrong.
Yeah, it's just fine. About how many balls you transferred from there over to there.
They outdo Leroy by 1 ball. Next is Sarah and Jordan. It sucks. They get snagged up. Jordan,
across their streams.
Egon told you not to do it, but they did it anyways. It was a really good test of Jordan's character. Because as soon as they realize that they only got 4 balls and that they're going directly to the dome, or, well, you know, to them, they're like, it's obvious we're going to the dome. Jordan could have flipped out again. He could have just been like, that letter meant nothing, and tears it up and starts bitching at her again.
That's true. I didn't really think of that. But yeah, he totally could have just freaked out and been a little bitch. But he was mature about it. He was like, all right, let's just focus on going in there.
That's why at first, when I first saw that scene where they made up, when they met into the doorway and they hugged it out, it could be totally fake. Jordan might be doing it for the camera, but it was authentic because they really were getting back together. They really were making up. I kind of respected Jordan for that, for not flipping out. It's nowhere near how Zach was. I mean, after Zach and Janae ran their thing, and then the producer explains to Zach that they're okay, Zach again goes into this really super fake mode. I got a little daredevil on my hands. He's trying to make light to it. He's trying to smile for the camera. He's trying to act like he didn't just punch the wall next to Janae, screaming at her like he always does. And this is Wes and Teresa's turn. Wes is like, if anyone asks why we still do this, well, we have real jobs. Today is the answer. They get 10 balls as well. So they're pretty much equal with Leroy and Naya at this point. Finally, Jay and Jenna go, and they get tangled up too. And they're starting to freak out. But they're able to get it untangled, much to Sarah's disbelief and dismay. She's like, that happened to us. I don't understand. Leroy and Naya, they end up winning. Good for them. The reason why they win is because technically Zach, he got 11 balls, one more than everyone else.
But he was too quick to jump over. He didn't wait until she got over against the wall.
Exactly. So he's screaming at Janae saying, well, I try to play a good game and you mess it up. He fucked it up for him.
But never mind that. It's Zach. He's perfect.
Like he says later on, he's like, I'm a Wolverine. I'm a champion. Yeah, that actually brings us up to the next scene where he tries to attempt to apologize to Janae, which in Zach's world means I'll sit down, I'll say a couple of cliched things like, listen, I'm sorry I yelled. Like that's about as deep as he gets. And then as soon as she doesn't answer, because really she's kind of fed up, he's like, are you going to answer me? Because I'll just get up and leave. Clearly that's not an authentic apology where he's already pissed off. He sits down and he's like, I'm sorry. Are you going to say anything? Well, fuck you.
He had the 2 sentences in his head. He had to think like 30 minutes to come up with those 2 sentences. He says them, and then he doesn't get a reaction, so he's like, well, fuck this.
Yeah, but Janae, she's like, you know what? This is enough. I'm not a bad partner. You could say that to everyone else in this house, but not to me because I'm not a bad partner. So good that she's finally standing up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Yeah, she needs to stand up for her hairstyle though, because the drastic contrast between her sitting and talking to Zach and then her like little one-on-one with the camera, the hair difference was just so drastic. It was like, oh Jesus Christ, wow.
So let's cut to Leroy and Naya's Black Power couple dinner. And I say that because they're served chicken.
Not just chicken, fried chicken.
I've always been a kind of a harsh critic of Leroy just because of his past performances, but he kind of changed a little bit in my eyes. I'm like, yeah, good for you, Leroy. And even Naya's like, wow, Leroy, you actually want to politic? Leroy's, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to call everyone in one by one, and everyone's going to have to leave this table thinking that we cut on the deal. They got to think that now we're their number one. And then we'll blindside whoever we want at deliberation, but we're going to make deals with every single person. So they call up Zach and Janae. They sit them down, and Leroy's like, basically, we're straight. Go sleep like a baby tonight. And Zach's like, oh, awesome. This is a great conversation. Thank you. And he takes off. But before he goes, Zach's like, just promise me. Make Jay tremble. Make him shit his pants.
Make him shaking his boots, yeah.
So they bring in Jay and Jenna.
Well, I agreed with Zach saying that because I would have done the same thing to him.
Yeah. So they call in Jay and Jenna. Voting them in would be purely on emotion. We got to be strategic with this.
Yeah, you got to go for your biggest competition.
Yeah, Jay, I want to put you in, but more than you, I want to put in the guy who's protecting you. Wes is like, yeah. I want his ass bad. So he calls Wes in. You've played a great game up until this point. And the smart thing for us to do is just to throw you in, period. Wes is sitting there and he's kind of scratching his chin. All right, I'm pretty sure I'm going in, but now it's up to me to try and fix it. And boy, does he fix it, man. It was one of my all time favorite power couple dinners.
You ever watch House of Cards?
I watched one episode.
I've seen seasons 1 and 2, and Kevin Spacey's character is very, like, Wes was just taking a play out of his playbook, where he's just like, all right, I'm going in, I have everything going against me, nothing to lose, I'm just going to talk my way out of this, and get this guy to think that we're together, and it's going to work out perfectly, and he just did it. Kevin Spacey did.
Kevin Spacey is an Academy Award winner, 1999 to be exact. He tells Wes, like, you know what, before this conversation is over, I need to be your number one. And Wes is like, I have a number one. And who is that? Zach. He basically tells Leroy that if you want to be my number one, you got to take out my number one. If you take out my number one, that is a guaranteed, not going to lie to you, help you to the final spot. But if he's still there, we're going to continue to work together. That's the bottom line. If you throw me in and I come back, Zach is still going to be gunning for you. Leroy's kind of skeptical. He's like, well, if we don't throw in Zach, is he still your number one? And Wes is like, yeah, precisely. Even if I go in, Zach and I were still in cahoots. And Leroy knows that Wes and Teresa has been winning the majority of the challenges. So Leroy is like, all right, well, maybe we should cut a deal.
And he didn't really have much of a choice. Leroy really didn't. Like, Wes politicked him. But Wes was kind of right when he was saying that if Zach ends up getting knocked out and he's gone, like, Leroy has to deal with Wes.
Mm-hmm.
But if Leroy was to try and put Wes in and get Wes eliminated, Leroy doesn't have a deal with Zach. Leroy would still be on his own. Wes presented him with an offer, and he kind of had to take it.
Teresa's sitting there in awe of her ex, and that's a good day. If you're impressing your ex-girlfriend, and she's like, wow, he's great. He's great at manipulation.
Wow, I thought he manipulated me, but that was nothing. Now I don't feel
what
so
a
bad.
panty dropper, yeah. And Leroy's like, the roles have been reversed. You're the power couple now. And Wes is like, no, not at all. Yes, it is, because if I do your dirty work and put in Zach, and Wes is like, that's not my dirty work. It is, motherfucker. Leroy really entertained me, even though he's getting played by Wes. I mean, Wes definitely gets the MVP of this episode, but Leroy was really good. He really provided a lot more for the camera.
Natural charisma, and that Leroy was right when he was saying that you're just trying to play me. He really was doing Wes's dirty work, because Wes, he's looking at his competitor saying, who is my biggest competition? Leroy's huge competitor. But they're the power couple. He can't knock him out. Zach, even though they're kind of an alliance, he's still a huge competitor.
So they walk off, and Leroy and Naya go ahead and go to Zach, who's trying to sleep like a baby, because they told him to sleep like a baby.
Yeah. So I don't get this part. Like, why did he even tell it? Why don't they just spring it the next day in the morning when they're like, hey, we're sending you in? Because to me, if I was going to make this kind of decision, I'd rather just sleep on it. I wouldn't even want to tell him that night and be like, hey, I want to think this over, make sure I'm completely positive I'm going to do this.
Well, they tell Zach. They're like, hey, man, I think my partner jumped the gun a little bit by saying that you're going to be okay. Things have changed, and we're going to put you in. And Zach's like, where I come from, guy code is like you shake another man's hand, that's your word. But apparently Leroy wasn't brought up that way, you know? But I just want to make sure that Wes didn't tell you guys anything. He's looking at both of them. No, who's Wes?
Yeah, Wes told him not to say anything, but it is blatantly obvious when you're like, hey, I'm not going to send you guys in. That's why I think he should have just not even told them and waited to the next day.
Yeah, that's true. So at deliberation that next day, you know what? We're going to put in Zach and John A. So the deed is done, and Wes has one of my favorite lines this season. Leroy pulled the trigger. Leroy loaded the gun. I just showed Leroy how the gun works.
Absolutely perfect. Pat on the back to whoever the producer was who fed him that line.
Oh no, dude, Wes has that lines all the time. That's one of the best things about Wes. He'll say nearly anything, and it doesn't always come out probably how he wants it. Sometimes he'll come off cartoonish. Back in Rivals, he was comparing himself to like my body was sculpted by Zeus himself, you know? If people ask what I'm good at, I'm like, shit. That's what I'm good at, everything. He says some of the best stuff that you're either going to laugh with him or laugh at him, but either way, it's still entertaining. He's one of the best shit talkers.
That's awesome. Yeah, like me being a newbie to this show, I just assume it's like every reality TV show. Like anytime somebody says something, I'm just like, somebody probably gave him that line.
Oh, no, not. I mean, maybe for some people, but Wes, he's good on the mic. He is CM Punk. We made that comparison earlier. So let's get to the dome, and it's called Hammer at Home, with the sledgehammers and knocking the I-beam, and this was cool. You liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And it was all about technique. That's really was the defining factor.
When you look at it, it only looks like it's like, okay, who's the strongest? That's who's going to win. That's what I thought. Zach's got this Money in the Bank right here. It's over. But you're right. It was about technique more than it was just the brute strength.
Jordan versus Zach at first, and then they got to trade off for the girls. And right off the bat, Zach's going to get it there, and then it's all up to John A.
Yeah, because Zach is going to beat out Jordan. And then,
who has one hand, again.
And then John A, it's like, well, Sarah's going to do better than her because John A is tiny compared to Sarah.
Sarah said John A's arms were barely as big as the handle of the sledgehammer. Zach, he's choked up on it so badly, and he's trying to just muscle it through, and he's talking about how he feels like his skin is just peeling off every hit, and you see in the shots, in slow motion, it hits in those terrible tremors running up his arm.
Yeah, you know? He was so high up on it. It's like, you get that vibration through your whole arm, through your body. Terrible way to hold it. And
sparks are flying out, and you said that's very unsafe.
Yeah. Even before the sparks started to fly, I saw him, I'm like, that's steel, that's a sledgehammer, they should be wearing safety glasses. And then, like a minute and a half later, there's sparks flying. It's like, oh, yeah, I was ready. He's using all of his muscle, but it's not going towards anything because of the way he's holding the hammer. He's just beating the shit out of himself.
This is about efficiency. Jordan gets to the second part first, before Zach, and it was kind of weird. He just casually walks up to Sarah and hands her the sledgehammer.
She seemed annoyed by it, and I was too. When I was watching, I was like, what the fuck? Like, even before she said anything, I was like, why is he walking? Why is he walking? He did beat Zach, but it wasn't that huge of a deal. But I guess maybe he was just so confident that Sarah was going to be able to beat John.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah. And so Sarah's going against Zach. Zach finally gets to the halfway point. Gives it to John A. And you could see Zach, he just kind of crouches down. He looks completely downtrodden, and he kind of knew it was over. He could only cheer for John A so much, but for the most part, he was just looking down at the ground most of the time. And Jordan is encouraging Sarah. Sarah's choked out on it as well.
You have to be if you're not stronger. But Zach is so damn strong, there's no reason for him to choke up. Him choking up took away all that leverage. He should have been holding it at the bottom.
It was crazy. John A actually kept up with Sarah. She actually did really good.
And you look at the way she was swinging it. She just had very kind of compact, very good, very quick. She was just hitting it so many times. Just bam, bam, bam. Where Sarah was kind of going back and giving it more muscle and more of a full swing.
Yep. They were about equal to the bell, but Sarah ends up getting it. She rings the bell. Jordan and Sarah win. Good. Fine. I'm not the greatest fan of Jordan or Sarah, but I despise Zach. I feel bad for John A, but I'm sure in the back of her mind she's like, God damn it, thank God. Because nearly every episode leading up to this, Zach is just reaming on her, man, for anything. He is the king of everyone is horrible and I am the greatest. He's not the greatest. I mean, anyone who saw last season, he got in the final, he was the worst. There was 6 competitors in the final, 3 guys and 3 girls, and he finished 5th place.
Wow.
Yeah. He only beat the lazy Devin, who's like this kind of done up, dolled up talk show host wannabe black chick who's like, I don't want to do that and shit like that, you know?
Nobody got time for that. This is like completely Zach's fault too, because this type of challenge, it's about brute strength as long as you can not out-stupid yourself, but he out-stupided himself and used horrible technique. He's going against a guy who only has one hand. There's no other challenge you could have like handpicked for him that he should have been able to dominate it at. Even though he had John A, yeah, she's not as strong. He should have been able to give her a minute head start.
Zach and John A, they're out of there. Jordan, Sarah back. Jordan, as much as I kind of find him annoying, he was extremely talented his rookie season. His sophomore, it was a slump, man. You almost lost all faith in him. So in this one, you're just like, I don't know which Jordan showed up this season. Is he going to be the awe-inspiring Jordan, or the like, oh, you fucked up again?
Last episode where he's just kind of a whiny twat the whole time, and then this episode you're like, well, at least he's being nice enough to make up with Sarah, and then he does well in the challenges, and they seem to be getting along again. Yeah, he's being mature again, but I've seen him in the past, so I'm not sure how long this Jordan is going to stay around, because he could end up getting pissed off again. They end up losing another challenge, he gets set back into elimination. He might just get so pissed off that he's just going to end up getting her pissed off, and then they'll end up losing a challenge because he can't keep his cool.
They had the final four toast. Hey, you know, it doesn't matter how we got here, but we're in the final four. Awesome. They cheers. And then we got a little promo of the Exile people coming into the next episode. So I'll fill you in on what you've missed since we covered it. Remember, Adam and Brittany got eliminated.
Top of the boxes?
Yep, the top of the boxes. So they're in Exile. They go online, and that's where Bananas is and Nani. Bananas and Nani. So they go in there. They have to face off with them. And it's just a straight-up wrestling match. It's like a 2-foot piece of wood. Whoever wins 2 rounds. So it's Bananas versus Adam. Bananas, he beats Adam. That's cool, but at the same time, producers have given Bananas tons of wrestling elimination. It's weird.
They found something that he's good at, and then they just keep feeding him in those situations because they know he's going to thrive.
The guy's a bulkier dude, so he's probably going to have the upper hand on most people. So now it's Nani versus Brittany. And that lasted like 1 second, 2 seconds. Nani just ripped it out of Brittany's hand. So now Bananas and Nani have to verse Johnny, Riley, and Avery. Remember them? Yep. They got eliminated last episode by Leroy and Naya.
Is he the short-haired guy and the hot chick?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's what I know him by.
Now it's the latest Exile. And it's Bananas and Nani versus Johnny, Riley, and Avery. And it's called Takeout. And it's kind of cool. There's these giant, almost like grave, what do they call it? Graves. Yeah, holes in the ground. And each one has a giant bamboo pole. And there's like 4 balls at the very bottom of that, 6 feet under. They basically have to use it like giant chopsticks. You have to work in unison and grab the ball, take it out. And Bananas and Nani, they just fucking cleaned house. Like Johnny and Avery didn't even get 1 ball. And they just got 1, 2, 3, 4. So Bananas and Nani are still technically in the game, thriving online. And with this episode, they're like, hey, we're bringing out the Exile survivors. So no shit, it's Bananas and Nani. Either way, this was a great episode. I love the mission. I love the dome. We had one of the coolest power couple dinners of all time. Wes just working his magic on Leroy, where Leroy's like, I feel like you're the power couple now.
He knew he was getting played, but he knew Wes was right the whole time.
Yeah.
So he had to go along with it.
That's the crazy thing. People like to shit on Wes. Like, you betrayed so many of us over the years, but this season they're working with him regardless. It's kind of odd, but they understand that he's the power in this house. Every single power couple dinner, whenever people win, they bring him in and they make a deal with him. Or they do his bidding.
And everyone is so damn scared. They don't even want to put him in the elimination because they're like, if we do, then we have a target on ourselves. And then he's going to figure out a way. Even if he can't throw us in the elimination, he'll talk someone else into making us get our asses kicked out of here.
So in closing, remember to subscribe. And I am Vincent Cloud.
I'm David Lauer.
Peace.